So we have Jeff Kearl in the studio today. So, okay, but previously he is responsible for so many brands that you probably know of, but it was Stance Socks and Skullcandy.
And I remember telling him, and his name was Rick Alden, and the company was Skullcandy. He looked different. Shorts, flip-flops. 7 years later, that business was doing $300 million in sales.
Welcome back. Thank you so much for watching and tuning in. So we have Jeff Kearl in the studio today. So thank you, Jeff, for coming in.
Welcome, Jeff.
We are very excited.
Thank you. Glad to be with you. So I was working as an associate at this little venture fund up in Salt Lake City.
Yeah.
Called V Spring Capital.
Yep.
In the early 2000s, a tech venture fund. And back then, the tech uniform was like Banana Republic, khakis and a golf shirt kind of thing. Looked nice, but not too nice. It hadn't quite gone all the way to hoodies yet.
Yeah.
And we had this entrepreneur, and he came in, and he looked different. Shorts, flip-flops. And,
super casual.
Ultra casual, broke the mode, and just the complete lack of refinement.
Yeah.
Most of the pitches are, tailored for VCs.
Yeah.
And he was anything but that. And his idea was, look, I'm a snowboarder, and Sony and Bose and Sennheiser don't speak to me. And I want to build headphones for our culture. Something that I can feel good about putting on my head. He would call it cranial real estate. Like if I'm going to advertise for someone, it's got to be a brand I care about.
He doesn't want Sony. He doesn't want the name brands. Yeah.
And his name was Rick Alden, and the company was Skullcandy.
Yeah.
And I remember telling him, look, I don't think we'll ever fund this because it's so far off our charter. But I think you could build a good small business for snowboarders and headphones. And eventually he talked me out of a small angel, initially a loan and eventually an angel investment. He was very persuasive. And 7 years later, that business was doing $300 million in sales really profitably, and eventually went public. And so you never really know the pitch you're going to get.
That's
what it can turn into.
Rick Alden, he pitched to Utah Angels the first time. I think Greg Warnock brought him in.
I brought him in.
You brought him in too.
Yeah.
So I went home that night. He gave some samples. I brought them home to him, and he thought they were the coolest thing ever.
Do you remember the very first versions of them, like the bass vibrating headphones?
That was called the Skull Crusher.
The Skull Crusher.
And guess what the valuation was on the company at that pitch meeting? $3 million pre-money.
Oh my gosh.
Crazy. And that was at Utah Angels. And Utah Angels got another chance to go in at $70 million valuation. Of course, it went to like $2 billion, right? Didn't it? Or 1.2 billion?
We peaked it around
1.2 billion.
I think we peaked it just over 600 million.
I thought it went over a billion.
IPO.
Really? I thought it went over a billion. But it was a good investment. And what's interesting is because at first I didn't get it. I'm an old guy, right? Back then, I brought it home to the kids. They thought they were the coolest thing ever.
They were great. I remember those headphones.
Yes, but the takeaway from that, the learning is, if you're pitching consumer products, it should be the sexiest, most exciting pitch that a tech VC has ever seen.
Yeah.
Because you expect the tech stuff to be a little dry.
Yeah.
It can be, it's technical. But like if it's consumer products, the pitch better blow you away.
Right.
Yeah. And also Rick Alden taught me a lesson. I've been around the block before, and he comes in and teaches me about this is a marketing play. He was getting those electronics for very inexpensive from China and wherever else he was manufacturing them. And he put the Skull and Crossbones logo on it. And guess what? Sold them for massive markups. It was incredible business.
Yeah.
That's exactly how it started, right? Rick called me at one point and said, I'm going down to the Consumer Electronics Show. This was 2003. I have my samples, and I'm going to show buyers what I've got. And
I'm going to get orders.
He's like, I need $25,000 for the rest of the payment to the trade show just to get there. Would you lend me the money? So I lent him $25,000. And he goes down to the trade show. And to my point about good storytelling, he sells $900,000 worth of headphones. And he comes back and, he does have some hyperbole in his storytelling. So I said, hey, give me the POs. So he sends the POs over. And like a good associate at a venture fund, I start calling them. And I make this call to the buyer at Sam Goody Musicland, who's placed an order for these headphones. And I start talking with this guy who said he has been the buyer there for 20 years. This is a mall retailer that doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah.
But it had over 1,000 stores. And for a long time, it was a staple of every American mall. And that's where you bought music before it was digital. And of course, the music players and headphones. And so I asked him why he was buying these headphones. And he said, well, Sony, Bose, and Sennheiser, they're all silver and black. They're all in the exact same box. And the positioning is we sound better than the other guy. And what I like about Skullcandy is it's in clear blister pack with pop colors. And there's no mention about sound quality. It's like a culture. It's like a lifestyle. It's this rebellious brand. And he's like, so I'll just drop Panasonic and see how these do.
Yeah.
And it's just a great example of counter positioning, right? The category was really homogenized, just a sea of sameness. And Rick came in on every single element of the headphone category he counter positioned.
Yeah.
And so it gave a lot of reasons for buyers to try it. And then it resonated with consumers and there was product market fit. So then you get repeat purchase. And it was just a matter of stacking retail doors for years. And, eventually you get Best Buy and eventually you get Target and eventually Amazon and online sales. And that was really how the business was built. But we financed it at first through factoring because we'd have to pay the factories a down payment on raw materials. And then by the time it gets built and shipped over from China, it takes a long time. So your cash is sitting out there. And once the business gets big, like let's say you're a few $100 million in sales, every container ship has millions of dollars on it that you're bringing over. And you're fronting that cash because it's a long time till you ship it to the retailer and the customer eventually buys it and you get paid. And that cash cycle, if you're growing really quickly, that gap becomes really painful. So you have to figure out a way, and you just don't want to sell every equity dollar to do that when you're going to get paid because these are good retailers that pay on time. So you have to come up with creative solutions to really bridge that gap. And the faster you grow, the more acute that need is for cash.
Yeah.
It's
So
actually
explain
easier.
what factoring is to our audience.
There's a group of specialized banks that, based on the quality of the PO, they'll say, geez, this is Best Buy. Best Buy has a high likelihood to pay these POs. So we'll front the money for that at a higher than average interest rate. It's actually usually quite punitive. It could be 15 or 20%. Like you're paying more in interest
you
than
sell
you
$1 million worth to a retailer as
Yes.
a wholesale or manufacturer today, like an e-commerce company would, right? So $1 million, so you do this $1 million you sold. How are you going to pay for the inventory and the expenses to get until they pay you that $1 million?
That's right.
You then sell that
Paper.
collectible. You're going to collect $1 million in the future. You sell that at a big discount.
Well, they might only lend 50, 60, 70, maybe depending on the quality of the paper, maybe an 80% of that at a pretty high interest rate. But that at least gives you the money to pay your factories, pay the freight, get it to your warehouse, get it sorted and shipped.
And is it a loan structure, or is it also sometimes they actually take over and they're the ones collecting it?
They often will collect, but not always.
Not always. Okay.
Yep.
And so that's one avenue to finance a consumer product company.
Yes.
Yeah.
Instead of financing inventory with VC dollars.
So you better have
very
good
expensive.
unit economics if you do factoring, though. If you have
That's right.
bad
It's
unit economics, you're going to have a
It's
hard
expensive money for a reason because there's risk there.
time. Yeah.
So where does Skullcandy go? How long do you stay with Skullcandy, and where does it reach? What was the end summarized story of Skullcandy with Jeff Kearl?
It became clear that we were going to have the size and scale to go public. So we started positioning the business to do that. And we took it public on the NASDAQ in 2011. And we had a great IPO and we put headphones on the bull in New York City. And it was an amazing celebration. And, that provided liquidity for all of our early shareholders that had backed us, a lot of angels. We didn't have a lot of institutional capital, but it was a really great win. And then 2 years later, we had a private equity firm, Mill Road Capital, that came along and made an offer to buy the business. And the stock had sort of been range bound for some period of time. And, we had saturated retail. And there's a lot of stories there. At one point, we had basically reached an agreement to merge with Beats by Dre. We were bigger. They were going faster. Our board didn't want to do it. And so we didn't do that deal in hindsight. They sold for $3.3 billion, so we had a much better outcome.
Yeah.
But it was a great run from 2003 to 2013, selling headphones, and it turned into a great business. And I'd heard last year that they had their best year ever. Still in Park City, and it's still a business.
Yeah, I mean, I see them everywhere still. They're huge. Yeah, they're still cranking. So.